You need to hear this if you're a thrill seeker. Imagine a place where the line between reality and nightmare blurs, where every creak and whisper sends chills down your spine. This is not just any haunted house, it's a place where the bravest souls have met their end. Are you ready to hear the tale of the most terrifying Halloween night ever? A dare turned deadly in an old haunted house, a place shrouded in mystery and fear. This house has stood for centuries, its walls soaked with the stories of those who dared to enter and never returned. The locals call it the House of Shadows, a name that sends shivers down the spine of anyone who hears it. Where shadows whisper and walls close in, the very air inside seems to be alive, filled with the echoes of the past. It's as if the house itself is a living entity, watching, waiting for its next victim. The narrow hallways twist and turn, leading you deeper into its dark heart. At the end of a narrow, winding road, an abandoned house stands, silent, brooding. Its windows are like dark eyes, staring out into the night, daring anyone to come closer. The trees around it seem to bend away, as if even nature itself is afraid of this place. The house is a monument to fear, a place where nightmares come to life. Locals whisper of strange occurrences, flickering lights with no electricity, as if the house is trying to communicate with the living. The lights flicker in a pattern, almost like Morse code, sending out a message that no one can decipher. It's as if the house is alive, its very walls pulsing with a dark energy. Shadows dancing behind curtains. On Halloween night, the air is thick with anticipation. The house seems to come alive, its dark energy reaching out to anyone who dares to come near. The shadows move as if they have a life of their own, twisting and turning in a macabre dance. A group of teenagers accepted a dare to spend the night there. As twilight faded, they stepped inside. Their laughter and bravado quickly turned to silence as the door creaked shut behind them. The house seemed to welcome them, its dark corridors beckoning them to explore. The air was thick with dust. Floorboards creaked, each step echoing through the empty rooms. The teenagers could feel the weight of the house pressing down on them, as if it was aware of their presence. Every creak and groan seemed to be a warning, a sign that they were not welcome. And decaying furniture filled the rooms. Midnight struck. The old grandfather clock in the hallway chimed, its sound reverberating through the house. The teenagers huddled together, their bravado gone, replaced by a growing sense of dread. The house seemed to be watching them, its dark energy growing stronger with each passing minute. A soft whisper echoed from the hallway. It was a sound that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. The teenagers froze, their eyes wide with fear. The whisper grew louder, turning into a chorus of voices, each one more terrifying than the last. "Who's there?" one boy called out. His voice trembled, echoing through the dark hallway. There was no answer, only the sound of the whispers growing louder, more insistent. It was as if the house itself was speaking to them, its voice filled with malice. No answer. The whisper spread, coming from all directions, filling the air with a sense of impending doom. The teenagers could feel the walls closing in on them, the darkness growing thicker, more oppressive. It was as if the house was alive, its very walls pulsing with a dark energy, rising into eerie, disembodied chatter. Lights flickered, shadows twisted. The air grew colder, the temperature dropping rapidly. The teenagers could see their breath in the air, their fear growing with each passing second. The house seemed to be feeding off their fear, growing stronger, more malevolent. The front door, once easily opened, was now stuck. Panic set in. The teenagers pulled and pushed, but the door wouldn't budge. It was as if the house had trapped them, its dark energy holding them captive. Their fear turned to terror as they realized they were not alone. The whispers turned into a menacing growl. It was a sound that seemed to come from the very walls, a deep, guttural noise that sent chills down their spines. The teenagers backed away from the door, their eyes wide with fear. The growl grew louder, more insistent, as if the house itself was angry. From the corner, a dark figure emerged, its eyes glowing with malevolence. It was a sight that would haunt their nightmares for the rest of their lives. The figure moved slowly, deliberately, its eyes never leaving the terrified teenagers. It was as if the house had taken on a physical form, its dark energy given life, its eyes glowing with malevolence. The teenagers backed away, their fear turning to terror. They could feel the dark energy of the house pressing down on them, its malevolent presence growing stronger with each passing second. The figure moved closer, its eyes glowing with a dark, malevolent light, but it followed, growling louder. Desperate, they fled upstairs. The house twisted. Doors locked, hallways turned into a labyrinth. The teenagers could feel the house closing in on them, its dark energy growing stronger with each passing second. They ran through the dark hallways, their fear driving them forward. Hallways turned into a labyrinth. The house seemed to be alive, its dark energy twisting and turning the hallways into a maze. The teenagers could feel the walls closing in on them, the darkness growing thicker, more oppressive. It was as if the house was feeding off their fear, growing stronger, more malevolent. One by one they vanished, their screams swallowed by the darkness. The house seemed to be alive, its dark energy consuming them one by one. The teenagers could feel the darkness closing in on them, their fear growing with each passing second. It was as if the house was feeding off their fear, growing stronger, more malevolent. Screams swallowed by the house. By dawn, silence. The townsfolk found nothing. The house stood silent, its dark energy waiting for its next victim. The townsfolk could feel the dark energy of the house, its malevolent presence growing stronger with each passing day. They knew that the house was waiting, its dark energy ready to consume anyone who dared to enter. The house remains, waiting for its next victims, its dark energy growing stronger with each passing day. The townsfolk could feel the malevolent presence of the house, its dark energy pressing down on them. They knew that the house was waiting, its dark energy ready to consume anyone who dared to enter. No one dares to enter, the fear of the house's dark energy keeping them away. The townsfolk could feel the malevolent presence of the house, its dark energy pressing down on them. They knew that the house was waiting, its dark energy ready to consume anyone who dared to enter. But every now and then, a brave soul dares to enter, drawn by the dark energy of the house. The townsfolk could feel the malevolent presence of the house, its dark energy pressing down on them. They knew that the house was waiting, its dark energy ready to consume anyone who dared to enter. A soul vanishes, becoming part of its dark legend, the house's dark energy growing stronger with each passing day. The townsfolk could feel the malevolent presence of the house, its dark energy pressing down on them. They knew that the house was waiting, its dark energy ready to consume anyone who dared to enter.